Hello, BCC high school students, especially you TOKers. I miss seeing you guys in person. You probably don't miss seeing my bad haircuts. Well, that's going to have to continue anyway through um, coronavirus shutdown. Today, I'm just recording some videos that are going to help you with the phase of citing your sources for your extended essay. Your teachers tell me that you're at that phase where you have to start worrying about it. So I'm just going to give you some general pointers on it. And then there are different videos for you to watch to teach yourself essentially how to do these formats. And hopefully we will do a Zoom session for any of you who are interested in getting either small group or individual feedback about how to actually do these. So you're probably wondering which style should you actually use. Ultimately, it does not matter. IB does not care what format that you choose. All they care about is that you pick one and that you do it correctly. So realize that the easiest points of the extended essay is the citation function, because all it is following rules. And if you take the time to follow rules, there's no real thinking involved in that. You can get those free points towards your extended essay. However, I want to encourage you to not be afraid to take some risks to learn something new. So since you were in elementary school, they've been shoving MLA down your throat, and that's probably what you're most comfortable with. But when you go to college, different subjects are going to have different format requirements, and I guarantee you that they will spend not 1 second in class teaching you how to cite your sources. It's going to be something that they just expect you to learn on your own. So this coronacation experience of trying to learn some things on your own is going to be some of the best preparation you're going to have for college. And I recommend that you try to learn something other than MLA if it's appropriate for your subject, because you're going to have teachers who will fail your entire essay because you don't put a period in the right spot. Or you leave out a page number, or you could actually be kicked out of college for plagiarism because you don't cite your sources enough. That is all real when it comes to college. So for this time, I think it's a good idea, if it's appropriate for your subject, to learn another style. So we are recommending that if you are doing a literature, film, or theater essay, stick with MLA. It's what's appropriate and what you would use when you get to college. If you're doing visual arts, music, dance, or history or anthropology, Chicago is what those subjects use in the real world. So if you've never heard of or seen Chicago, it's also called Chicago Turabian. That is footnotes. So if you've ever seen footnotes before, they're using Chicago style for it. And it would be the one that would require the most learning for you. If you are doing something in the social sciences, especially psychology, it makes sense that you use APA. APA stands for the American Psychological Association. So that's why it makes sense there. For extended essay topics that are math or science related, we are recommending that you do APA, but there's an asterisk next to that, mainly because when you go to college and you do a biology paper or you do a chemistry paper, know that each of those disciplines actually have their own styles, and they will require like individual learning. So keep that in the back of your mind when it's college time, is that your teacher may give you on the first day of class on the syllabus saying you have to do a lab report, and they want you to use the Harvard style. And they will then next ask for that in November and say, okay, everybody make sure you turn in your lab report, and they've spent no time telling you how to do your actual lab or how to cite your sources. So just know that there are other styles out there, but we recommend that you would use APA. Okay. So, what are the difference between these? If you look at this slide, the main takeaway we want you to have is that they're actually quite similar. And when it comes to MLA, they have a works cited page. APA has a reference, it calls it a reference page, and Chicago calls it a bibliography. Notice all of these checks. That means that basically they all include the same information. And the only real difference is that Chicago doesn't have an access date in a citation, and then when you're formatting on the page, it's going to be single spaced, and then you're going to have an extra line in between your citation. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same. They might use a comma instead of a period and things like that. But my recommendation is that you're going to use a Noodle Tools, an EasyBib, or something like that anyway. So hopefully they get the punctuation done properly for you. So to give you an idea, here's the same source cited on a bibliography page or works cited page or references page, whatever you have. Uh, on your screen. And so this is how they would be cited. So notice this one is double space, as is this one, but this one is single space. So they're pretty similar, but they have small differences. And the big difference comes into the internal citations. So MLA has something called parenthetical citations. So you're used to doing this at the end of a sentence. You have parentheses, the author's last name. If you have a print source, you would have a page number. If it's an online source, you don't need it. And then you close your parentheses, and then a period goes after the parentheses, and then you go on to your next sentence that has information that you may or may not have to cite. APA is very similar. They also use parenthetical citations where it's used. Now, notice here that you have instead the author's last name and then the publication year. And the only time that you are going to have a page number is if you are directly quoting something. So literally something with quotation marks around it. Then in your parentheses, you would have P period if it's on one page, or if it's a quote that goes over multiple pages, it would be PP period. But once again, the sentences period goes after the parentheses. Now, Chicago, that's the big difference here. You're using footnotes for it, and then the system that you use for that is that you have a consecutive numbering system that the first time that you cite something in your paper, it's going to get number one. At the end of the sentence, superscripted, and then at the bottom of the page, you're going to see number one with your source information. And then if you have 57 different citations in your there's a helicopter. That's what happens when you live near suburban hospital by helicopter. Oh, actually, that's a military. It must be going to Walter Reed or something. Anyway, I digress. So if you have 47 pieces of information that comes from other sources that you did your research, then you're going to have 47 footnotes within your paper. And the footnote is where things actually get significantly more complicated than the other two, and how to actually do them. We We'll have some videos that explain to you how to do footnotes. I'm not going to take this time to do it, but notice you might have seen something called IBID when you are you're doing your research, and IBID just basically means, oh yeah, this information came from the exact same source that I footnoted right above it. So it means in the same place, and that is basically what you have. So those are the differences between it. Your reference bibliography, works cited page, they're all going to look very similar. No matter what style you have, the real difference comes into your internal citations for it. Chicago is going to require significantly more learning for it, but if you do something in history or anything like that when you go to college, they're going to make you learn how to do it. So you might as well take the time now when you can get some feedback from me. So watch the videos for the different styles so you can learn how to do what is appropriate for your discipline. But ultimately, IB doesn't care. All they care is that you pick one and that you stick with it. So please reach out to me if you have questions. And I will be available hopefully for a Zoom for you guys whenever you need it. All right, take care. By the way, here are the world's cutest kids. There's Bobby. There's Chloe.
Hi.
Yes, they are part of the noise that surrounds me in this coronation. All right, good to see you.